Thank you. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for that incredibly warm welcome this morning. It's great to be back here at Wilfrid Laurier University, as you know, named for my second favorite Prime Minister. It's also really good to be here with such a strong team of Liberal candidates for the Waterloo region and the surrounding area. Let's give them another round of applause. Thanks for all scattered around. I want to particularly thank Bardish for her warm welcome and also highlight that Bernadette Clement and Bill Morneau will be helping moderate the Q&A section of today. So I'm looking forward to getting into that because both Bill and Bernadette have been incredibly helpful in developing our platform as well, which we'll be talking about today. I'm incredibly pleased to have all of them on our team. I'm incredibly pleased to have all of you here today. But I would be remiss today if I did not recall one of Laurier's key maxims, that we should adhere to sunny ways. The idea that things like open dialogue, patience, respect, and compromise can go a long way, because they always have. For much of the 20th century, the one Laurier declared Canada's century, governments operated under those ideas and gave us a prosperous nation guided by justice, openness, and fairness. Laurier's vision was of a Canada where everyone has a fair chance at success, no matter who you are or where you're born. That's right. My friends, during the Harper decade, we drifted away from that vision. We drifted because the Prime Minister lost focus. Stephen Harper has lost touch with Canadians. He's lost touch with dads. Stephen Harper has lost touch with dads getting their kids ready for school every morning. He's lost touch with moms battling gridlock to and from work. He's lost touch with folks trying hard every month to make ends meet. We worked hard over the last 3 years to build a team that will fix that. This is a team ready to bring real change to Ottawa, ready to bring real, positive change to your lives and to the lives of Canadian families. That's what this election is all about. It's about you. It's about making sure you have more opportunities to succeed. Because when our middle class has more money in their pockets to save, invest, and grow the economy, we all benefit. Stephen Harper gave up on helping the middle class a long, long time ago. He and his friends are worried about their own jobs, not yours. After a decade, we know Stephen Harper just won't help. Après une décennie sous les conservateurs de M. Harper, nous sommes bien loin de la vision optimiste de Wilfrid Laurier. Stephen Harper a depuis longtemps perdu la notion de ce qui compte vraiment. Il a oublié les gens qu'il est censé servir et représenter. Il a laissé tomber la classe moyenne. Eh bien, ces élections sont l'occasion de remettre les pendules à l'heure, de remettre les Canadiens au cœur de notre travail. C'est le temps de changer ensemble maintenant. My friends, Canadians want a better government, not just a different one. It's time for real change. You see, I've met with Canadians. I've looked you straight in the eye, and I've told you what it's going to take to grow our economy. It'll take investments. investments in jobs, in the middle class, in Canadians who are working hard every day to join the middle class. And the time to invest is now. Not because our economy has had a weak couple of months, but because under Stephen Harper, we've had 10 weak years. That's why I am so pleased to be here today at the university that bears Laurier's name to launch our full platform. On the other hand, here we go. Yeah, en français. It's a platform that reasserts the vision that made Canada successful for so long, that made us the envy of the world. Stephen Harper veut vous faire croire que sans lui, l'économie va s'effondrer. Ça n'a aucun sens. Le pilier de notre économie, c'est pas lui, c'est vous. Ce sont tous les Canadiens qui travaillent fort chaque jour. Stephen Harper wants us to think that if it weren't for him, our economy would fall apart. That's nonsense. The Canadian economy doesn't depend on him, it depends on you. It depends on your work ethic. It depends on the people I meet all across the country every day. It depends on folks like those here today, students working hard to shape a brighter, more innovative future for Canada. But Stephen Harper has done little to help young Canadians shape the future. Too often, the cost of a post-secondary education saddles too many young Canadians with large debts. That's a tough way to get your start in the world. Just as it is harder and harder for middle-class families to save for retirement or a new home, it's increasingly difficult for parents to save for their kids' education. Meanwhile, the federal government spends billions every year on non-refundable tax credits that don't offer direct help for students when they need it. That's why, as part of our platform, we have a plan to provide direct support to students from low and middle-income families so that they can pay for a good education and keep their debt at a manageable level. We'll increase the maximum Canada Student Grant for low-income students by 50% to $3,000 per year for those full-time. And for part-time students, we'll more than double it to $1,800 every year. We'll also make it easier for more students from middle-class families to qualify for Canada Student Grants. But finding the money to pay for school is only half the battle. Repaying student loans after you leave is often just as challenging. That's why we'll also make our student loan system more flexible. We'll ensure no graduate with student loans has to make any repayment until they're earning at least $25,000 a year. We'll work with the provinces and territories to make sure that they don't assume any additional cost and to make sure these investments go directly to students. And of course, we'll make sure that provinces like Quebec that operate their own unique student loan program will be fully compensated. And finally, we'll also invest $50 million in additional annual funding to the Post-Secondary Student Support Program, which helps Indigenous students get a post-secondary education. And that investment will also allow for the program to expand in line with the growing demand. See, making post-secondary education affordable is just one part of our platform that we're releasing today. Just one part of a plan focused on the heart of our economy, you. Alors que le plan de Stephen Harper et de Thomas Mulcair est d'éliminer le déficit à tout prix, nous avons décidé de faire des choix différents. Comme nous l'avons dit avant et comme vous le constaterez dans notre plateforme, nous allons faire trois choses. Nous ferons croître l'économie, nous créerons des emplois et nous renforcerons la classe moyenne. Pour y arriver, nous allons faire des investissements historiques dans les infrastructures qui créeront des emplois et bâtiront des municipalités et des régions plus fortes et plus résilientes. Nous allons aussi demander aux plus riches de payer un peu plus d'impôts pour que les familles de la classe moyenne en payent moins. Nous allons nous assurer que les familles qui en ont vraiment besoin ont plus d'argent dans leur poche chaque mois. Notre allocation canadienne aux enfants est plus généreuse et aidera ceux qui en ont le plus besoin, les familles monoparentales et les familles à faible revenu. Et alors que Stephen Harper et Thomas Mulcair veulent continuer d'envoyer des chèques d'allocation aux millionnaires, nous allons utiliser cet argent pour sortir 315 000 enfants de la pauvreté. Parce que nous sommes convaincus que c'est la bonne chose à faire. Our plan will do three straightforward things. We'll grow the economy, create jobs, and strengthen the middle class. We'll do that by making the most significant infrastructure investment in Canadian history so that we can create good jobs as we build stronger, more resilient communities. We will invest to build this country again. We'll raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we can cut taxes for the middle class. And we'll offer more help to those working hard to join the middle class. Our Canada Child Benefit will give families more money to help with the high cost of raising their kids, and will deliver extra support to those who need it most, single-parent families and low-income families. Harper and Mulcair want to keep sending government checks to millionaires. We have different priorities. We will use that money instead to lift 315,000 kids out of poverty. We will also make sure Canada is respected again as a global leader on the environment. Our plan will invest in clean energy technology and green jobs, restore credibility to Canada's environmental approval process, and be once again a positive actor on the world stage. And at the same time, we'll do something Stephen Harper refuses to do. We'll work with the provinces and territories to create national emissions reduction targets informed by the best economic and scientific analysis. Emissions reduction is key to Canada's future, not simply for the good of our environment, but also for the good of our economy. We'll take an honest, open approach to these decisions because transparent government is key to keeping our democracy healthy. After a decade of Stephen Harper, Canadians' faith in government has never been lower. Well, we aim to change that. We'll put an end to secrecy and closed doors in Ottawa. Our plan will give Canadians a more transparent and fair government. It will mean bringing real change to the Senate by eliminating partisanship and political patronage without bogging down the country in unnecessary constitutional battles. Information will also be more accessible. Information about your government, more open, more easily available. And we'll make government more accountable by making question period relevant. And also by making government watchdogs like the Parliamentary Budget Officer truly independent. And of course, as I've said, we will restore the long-form census. That's our plan. That's the kind of good work government can do when it puts the real needs of Canadians at the heart of what it does. Nous avons un pays extraordinaire qui mérite un meilleur gouvernement. Les Canadiens méritent un meilleur gouvernement. Et je sais qu'en travaillant tous ensemble, nous pouvons nous débarrasser de la politique de la peur et de la division pour à nouveau nous rassembler autour d'une vision optimiste pour l'avenir. C'est pour ça que je suis ici aujourd'hui. Parce que je veux bâtir un pays meilleur pour nos enfants et nos petits-enfants. This is a great country, my friends, and it deserves a better government. I believe in this country. I love it with all my heart. But this campaign has never been about me. It has never even been about the Liberal Party. It has always been about Canadians. We are in this We are in this for Canadians, people who give a lot and ask for little, who want what's best for their family and for their community and for their country. My friends, I'm optimistic about Canada's future. We have the chance this election to make it better, to beat fear with hope, to beat cynicism with hard work. We have the chance to enact a vision of Canada that's confident and positive. We have the chance to bring real change. My friends, better is always possible, and together we can build a better country. Thank you. Thank you. And now, thank you. So now I'd like like to invite our candidates, Bill and Bernadette, up here on stage to help me take some questions from all of you and from Facebook that is live streaming this right across the country. It's great to have Facebook and, quite frankly, around the world. So looking forward to taking both Facebook questions and questions from many of you in here today. This is an exciting opportunity to share extraordinary platform with everyone. This is the paper copy, but you guys will find out that there's a very, very strong online component of this because, that's, where things are going these days. And what's neat about it is all sorts of customizable elements. So there is details within your own priorities. You can pick the issues that are of concern to you and build your own platform through our website at liberal.ca. And I encourage everyone to spend your next 2 weeks of waking hours poring over all the extraordinary details in this platform that, quite frankly, we're very proud of, but not because of all the hard work that I put into it or our caucus members and our experts from across the country put into it, but because of all the work that Canadians put into it. Over the past months and years, I've been across this country. Our candidates have been crossing their ridings and the country to listen to Canadians about their priorities, about what their concerns are, about how we're going to build a better future for ourselves, for our kids, for our grandkids. And those stories and those issues and those priorities are all in our platform. This was a team effort touching Canadians right across the country, and I'm so glad to be able to present it today. And now that everything seems to be set up, I'm happy to turn now to Bernadette and Bill, who are going to start off the Facebook questions. They are on appropriate devices, and we'll field things in. I heard one of them at least was a BlackBerry, but we'll get around to that later. Anyway, there we go.
I'll just hide the thing on the back.
You're going to go. There you go. Who wants to go first?
Bill.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to go first, and the technology is working, which is always great. We have a question on Facebook from Christina. And she asks to Justin, I understand education goes under the provincial level, but what will you do for Canadian students coming out of college and university in thousands of dollars in debt?
Yeah. Obviously, as an MP from Quebec, I'm very sensitive to provincial areas of jurisdiction. But we all know across the country, education is far too important for the federal government not to step up and support the provinces as they deliver education. And then when you see the number of young people and adults who spend their lives living in different parts of the country, we realize that making sure that there is a top quality education for everyone and a way to get out from under student debts for everyone across the country means there is a strong and clear role for the federal government. And that's why, as part of our announcement today on post-secondary education, we are committing to making loan repayment easier for student loans, meaning it won't kick in until you make at least $25,000 a year. So people aren't struggling with too much of a delay as they start, too much of a drag on them as they start their working lives. But what we're also going to do is increase the Canada Student Grants Program to help more lower and middle income families with more money to get ahead and to achieve that post-secondary education that we need so much from all of them. And I'll take a question from Bernadette now, and then I'm going to go to this crowd here, and then we'll start alternating, and I'll go around the room. So, vas-y Bernadette.
Salut Justin.
Bonjour.
Ça va?
Ça va très bien.
Oui. J'ai une question de Guy. Comment Sophie a pris ça que tu lances Mon amour affectueusement à Gilles Duceppe? I think they got that question even in English, eh?
Sophie's been complaining for a while that I've been on the road too long, but seeing me call Gilles Duceppe mon amour means I've really been out too long. Pour moi, ça soulignait que, oui, Sophie et moi, nous avons des conversations animées souvent sur des enjeux de politique et que je laisse tomber ça. Ça a été très gênant pour moi, mais je pense que la réalité, c'est que c'était un peu plus gênant pour Gilles Duceppe. Alors, on va le laisser là. Anyone with a question? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You are ready, and you do have gray hair.
Thank you.
It's difficult to talk about everything in your platform and in your plan, but I haven't heard anything about low-cost housing for seniors.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy to talk about that. We have launched the largest infrastructure spending investment program in Canada's history. $60 billion of new money over the next 10 years, of which $20 billion over the next 10 years are allocated towards social infrastructure. And that specifically targets things like seniors housing, things like childcare spaces, things like cultural and community infrastructure according to priorities set up by municipalities. So there will be, it also helps extending the rent geared to income in co-op programs. It will be significant investments in the priorities that municipalities and provinces have towards providing affordable housing for seniors and seniors' residences. But on top of that, we have a number of initiatives to help out our seniors, including drop the retirement age for OAS from 67 back to 65, because that took tens of thousands of dollars out of the pockets of seniors. And we are also going to be increasing the guaranteed income supplement for our most vulnerable seniors by 10%, which means that the most vulnerable are single low-income seniors who will see their GIS boosted by $920 every single year. Thank you. Thanks for that question. Bill.
Well, we have a question from Eve on Facebook, and he says, hi, Justin. You say you're going to raise taxes on the wealthiest 1%. But what about cutting taxes too?
Excellent. Actually, the reason that we are raising taxes by $3 billion on the wealthiest 1% of Canadians is so that we can cut them by $3 billion for middle-class Canadians. Because one of the things we've seen over the past years is Mr. Harper continues to give benefits and tax breaks to wealthy families, to wealthy Canadians, and can't figure out that that's not what creates job growth, that does not create economic growth in our communities. That's why making sure that we put $3 billion back into the pockets every month of middle-class Canadians is good for addressing income inequality. But it's also good for creating growth, because money in the pockets of people who will spend, invest, and save it actually stimulates the economy and gets things rolling for everyone. So that's exactly part of our plan. Thank you, Eve, for that. Another question. Yeah, here we go.
Hello, Justin. What do you make of Mr. Harper's statement that jihadis are waging war on Canada? And on the domestic front, what will you do to prevent homegrown terrorism?
Excellent questions. Quite frankly, we, as people all around the world, are incredibly worried and worried about the global instability of the war that ISIS is waging, not just on the West, but on their own neighbors in the Middle East. We need to make sure that Canada continues to be a strong member of the coalition against the Islamic State. And yes, has a military role, but I disagree with Mr. Harper, who thinks that military role should be a combat role. I know that Canada has developed an extraordinary capacity over the years, particularly in Afghanistan, to train local troops, because one of the things that we've seen regularly from conflicts in the Middle East is that Western intervention doesn't necessarily solve the problems, and it is local people fighting to take back their homes with the tools and support that Western countries can give them that will solve the issue. And that's why we feel that Canada's military needs to be involved in a training role in the Middle East. Secondly, around homegrown terrorism and issues around security here at home, the Liberal Party understands and has always understood that Canadians expect two things of their government: to keep us safe and to defend our rights and freedoms, and to do them both together. Now, Mr. Harper doesn't seem to think we need to do anything more to defend our rights and freedoms, and he's wrong on that. Mr. Mulcair doesn't think we need to do anything more to defend our security, and I think he's wrong on that too. The Liberal Party is committed to doing those both together and will not play up the politics of fear on either side, either fear of terrorists or fear for our rights and freedoms. We think that's irresponsible. And on top of that, the kind of politics of fear and division that Mr. Harper is stirring up is exactly counter to the kind of work that we need to do to bring communities together, to work with community leaders and groups to ensure that young people aren't drawn in by radicalized ideologies and continue to be strongly valued as important members of our community. This is the kind of open outreach that government should be doing instead of stoking up fears and division, which, quite frankly, for 10 years we've had enough of. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bernadette.
J'ai une question de Sébastien. Alors, il a participé hier à la 10e marche en soutien aux femmes autochtones assassinées et disparues, Missing and Murdered Aboriginal Women. Qu'en est-il de la commission d'enquête nationale et qu'allons-nous faire?
Excellente question, Sébastien. J'ai reconnu, et il y avait beaucoup de libéraux hier qui ont porté du rouge pour la journée des Sisters in Spirit, pour souligner à quel point c'est important de se souvenir et de rester engagé auprès de ces femmes autochtones disparues et assassinées. Le Parti libéral du Canada s'engage fermement à lancer une enquête nationale, publique, pour s'assurer que nous nous rendons justice envers les victimes, qu'on aide à guérir les familles, mais aussi qu'on s'assure que plus jamais ça va se passer au Canada. The Liberal Party is committed to a full national inquiry into the missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls. So that we can provide justice for the victims, healing for the families, and we make sure that such tragedies never happen again. Thank you very much. Merci, Sébastien. Another question? Here we go. Yes.
Mr. Trudeau, can you speak about your party's position on a national law for access to information for persons with disabilities and disability rights?
Yes, excellent. And there are two issues in there that blend quite well. First of all, access to information needs to be increased. We have a government that for 10 years has been incredibly secretive and non-transparent in how it behaves, how it deals with Canadians. We can't even find out our own personal information the government holds on us. We are going to make much more robust our access to information protocols and requirements, strengthen the Access to Information Commissioner, make it so that she or he can emit binding orders, and ensure that Canadians see that an open and transparent government isn't just a government worthy of their trust because it trusts them, but also see that an open and transparent government actually makes better policy decisions because they're based on evidence and done in an open and transparent way. Furthermore, we are committed, and it's right here in our platform, to bringing in a National Disabilities Act to ensure that we are making sure that everyone has the kind of support and recognition that they need in order to succeed fully in this country. Bill.
Well, there are a lot of important questions in this campaign, and I may have the most important one. It's from Andrew, and it came in on Facebook. Justin, as a new dad, I have a question. How much practice does it take to balance your kid on one hand?
It's always that question. I mean, how many times do you have to drop the kid before you actually get good at it? You know, it doesn't. If you have to practice, don't do it. You know, I was raised by a father who always was willing to challenge us, got us, jumping off of, chairs down into his arms, jumping off counters into his arms, jumping off dressers into his arms. He taught us both to be confident in our physical abilities and to trust the dad man. And it's that balance that I certainly have tried to pass on to my kids. I recommend, I think concretely, the best thing is probably start them in a swimming pool in the summer while they're wearing floaties or a life jacket. So if you do drop them, that there won't be any long-term consequences on that. And get mom's permission first. Although the grandparents never give permission, don't bother with that. But at least mom's permission is fine. Anyone? Here we go. Yes, Sue, in front.
Mr. Trudeau, what are the sort of changes that you'd like to see made to Bill C-51?
We actually have a section in there addressing what I've been talking about all along, which is what Canadians expect, both protect our security and defend our rights together, and do it in a responsible, reasonable way. That's what the Liberal Party did in the years, months and years following 9/11, when we brought in the first counterterrorism bills, and that involved a lot of discussion, a lot of examination, a lot of experts, a lot of committee meetings, a lot of amendments, and that's the process we have to take on keeping Canadians safe. Concretely, there's a number of things listed in there that we're going to be doing. The big ones is doing like our Five Eyes allies do and bringing in robust oversight by elected parliamentarians of all of our national security and police agencies. That's something that we're the only country that hasn't had, that doesn't, in the Five Eyes allies who doesn't do that we are well overdue for doing, and we're committed to that. And it's not just about ensuring that our national security agencies don't violate Canadians' rights, which of course is an important role for it, but it's also about holding those national security and police agencies to account to make sure they are doing everything they can and must do to keep us safe. It's always about that balance. We're also going to be narrowing and tightening a number of the definitions that we know are overly loose and overly broad provisions in the current anti-terrorism legislation, and bringing in both review and sunset clauses to ensure that moving forward, the legislation that we have is actually needed and continues to be justified as the world evolves and changes every 3 years. These are the kinds of things we will do because Canadians expect their leaders not to play up fears on either side of the debate, but to reassure people that we are going to do right by Canadians' desire to have their security defended and their rights protected at the same time. And that's what the Liberal Party will always do. Thank you very much.
It is proven that many young people are not voting. I think it's because there isn't enough change happening for our age demographic. What would you focus on to change this and get more young people interested in politics and in our country?
I think the last part, getting young people interested in our country, that's easy. The fact is we have a generation of young people now who are more aware, more informed, and more involved in local issues and campus clubs and big single-issue causes and taking a stand and making their voices heard on a wide range of issues. This is a more engaged generation than we've ever had of young people. But at the same time, there is a sense among young people, not entirely inexplicable given the tone of politics in the last 10 years, that politics isn't a useful or valuable way to actually affect change in the world. When politics is all about personal attacks and divisive wedge issues and increasing cynicism amongst voters, no wonder young people say, I just don't know if actually voting or getting involved in politics is going to make a big difference. And that's where the Liberal Party has taken very seriously one of our primary roles and responsibilities as restoring that sense of legitimacy and meaningfulness to engaged active citizens. Making sure that people's voices count and get heard, making sure that politics is done in an open and transparent way, and putting aside the negativity and the nastiness. I mean, when I made the pledge not to go negative, not to make personal attacks, not to use the nastiness that has been used to great effect in politics, it wasn't because I don't think that can be a powerful way of getting elected. Mr. Harper proved in 2011 that that can be a very powerful way of getting elected, even with a majority. However, what he's also proved is the politics of division and fear then make it extremely difficult to actually govern the country responsible for the whole in meaningful ways, because you're constantly looking for hot button issues or ways to divide people. That's no way to run a country as diverse and as extraordinary as Canada. So even though negativity and nastiness can galvanize a small number of people to vote, I know that the way to get idealistic, ambitious, long-term thinking young people and young people of all ages to re-engage in the political process is to actually stop making people feel like you have to vote against the least worst of the options out there and get people to once again vote for a vision they can get behind. Over there.
Justin, we loved your dad and we love you.
You're very kind. Thank you.
My question is, it doesn't seem that our local government or local authorities are able to help the homeless people in our area. What will you do when you get to be the next Prime Minister?
Well, thank you very much. Well, I mean, obviously, cities and municipalities across the country have different challenges and, quite frankly, different solutions to the various challenges. What works in Victoria might not be the same solution that would work in Quebec City. And that's where a federal government needs to be a much better partner to municipalities and to provinces on a wide range of challenges. But the one thing that the federal government can and must do is be there to help invest in shelters, in facilities, in a program that is going to actually work in the municipality, in the local community where it is. As my good friend and our candidate in downtown Toronto beside Bill, Adam Vaughan, talks about regularly, housing isn't actually a problem. It's a solution. And that's why we will be investing massively in social infrastructure, in housing, in programs that help the most vulnerable Canadians have a path, like the Housing First initiative, have a path towards success. But again, it's not a program created in Ottawa that's going to make a difference in every municipality. It's a partnership with Ottawa for local municipalities and the extraordinary NGOs and community organizations that are already doing so much of the heavy lifting on that. They need a little more stability and long-term funding in many cases so they can spend more time delivering services and programs and less time fundraising constantly to try and be able to help the people they want. That's what a government that is serious about helping people will actually do. And we've got time for two last questions, I've been told, so I'll go to Bill for one last question from Facebook, and then I'll take a question from someone behind me, because I've been staring in the other direction the entire time. So Bill,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a question from Jeanne, and I want to start by saying she's not related to me or anybody I know, but she starts off by saying, I think you're perfect for the job. Thank you for
Talking to you,
expanding the
Bill?
GIS. I do too. Looking forward to a better Canada. But her question is, a lot of people I've talked to are worried about income splitting, and I suspect she might mean pension income splitting.
Yes. Over the past year or two, I have told the Prime Minister, said in the House of Commons, told Canadians over and over again that we disagree with his program on income splitting for families because it doesn't affect more than 15% of Canadians, even though it's paid for everyone, and it really depends on what type of family you have. Single-parent families, divorced families, families that make the same income level don't get any benefits from income splitting, which is why we've chosen to replace income splitting for families with a more generous child benefit that will put more money in the pockets of all middle-class families and low-income families, and, like I said, lift 315,000 kids out of poverty. But income splitting for seniors works well, and it is something that we will uphold and protect. Now, Mr. Harper, even this week, apparently, I just heard that he put out more ads saying that I'm going after income splitting for seniors. I haven't seen the ads yet, but I also think Mr. Harper probably hasn't seen those ads yet because he knows full well that I'm not going to touch income splitting for seniors. And if he had seen those ads before they went out, he, I know, wouldn't have wanted to share an untruth with Canadians. That's just not worthy of a Prime Minister. We will, of course, protect income splitting for seniors. And last question, right there, yes.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Currently, students are able to delay their repayments on their federal portion of their loans for 6 months, but they're still charged interest. I was just wondering if your plan to delay payments to $25,000 income level would also be interest-free.
Yeah, the interest will be assumed by the federal government on that. That's all part of it. We want to make sure, I mean, we know that we have challenges around an aging population, and that's going to require young people to have the best possible jobs they can have and have the greatest success they have, because we have a tremendous hope and opportunity in the future. We have an incredible country, but it means we can't be dragging young people down at a time where they need to be launching their start in life, and that's why addressing student debt repayment is something that is a priority for us, because, quite frankly, we've heard from young people. It's a priority for you. It's a priority for your parents. It's a priority for your grandparents. And everything in our platform that we're releasing today is, quite frankly, based on what we have heard from Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Not just that they're tired of a government that chooses to divide and make people afraid rather than make us optimistic and confident, but that Canadians need support as we grow the middle class, as we invest in growth for our economy, and as we strengthen and create jobs, good jobs right across the country. That's what we will do. That's what the Liberal Party is focused on. That is real change. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much. Merci. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now, if you'll all bear with me, the media have been very patient in waiting for your questions and for Facebook questions, and now they get a few questions of their own. So I'm glad to take questions from media.
Hello, Mr. Trudeau. I'm Nicole Lampa from CTV News. I have a couple of questions to ask you. First has to do with the TPP deal. Now, it's been in the works for the past 5 years, and you've said you need to look at the agreement as details are starting to emerge on the agreement. Is the Liberal Party going to support the deal or not? Is it even possible to consider not supporting the deal and risk any future trade agreements with the countries involved?
The Liberal Party of Canada is a resolutely pro-trade party. We know that trade is important for jobs, for good-paying jobs, for economic growth, that this deal includes 3 of our 5 largest trading partners. Obviously, this is a very, very important deal. We have deplored from the very beginning that this Prime Minister has always, every step of the way, chosen secrecy and obfuscation rather than openness and transparency, which is why, obviously, as I've said, we're a pro-trade party, but we're going to look carefully at the elements of this deal to ensure that it is in the best interest of Canadians, of the Canadian economy, of the jobs that we need to create. And we will also commit that the ratification process for this deal will go through a full and responsible and open discussion, both in Parliament and with Canadians, so that we make the right decision going forward for Canada. We will demonstrate the kind of openness and responsibility that, quite frankly, we haven't had in 10 years of Stephen Harper's government. But the quick answer is we are a pro-trade party. We will take the responsible time to look at the provisions, to hear from Canadians on the impact of this deal, and we will make the right decision for Canada. Le Parti libéral du Canada est un parti en faveur de l'échange international des accords commerciaux. Nous allons évidemment regarder les détails de cet accord attentivement, mais la réalité, c'est que des échanges commerciaux créent des emplois de qualité, créent de la croissance économique et nous amènent dans une meilleure position, cet accord-ci en particulier, avec 3 de nos 5 plus gros partenaires à l'international. Alors, ce que nous nous engageons à faire, c'est d'abord de bien étudier ce projet, cet accord, et quand on aura plus d'informations sur les détails, d'écouter les Canadiens sur les impacts que ça va avoir dans leur industrie, dans leur communauté, et d'avoir un processus ouvert et responsable au Parlement pour la ratification de cet accord important. Ce ne serait pas comme 10 ans de M. Harper, ce serait un exemple de comment le Parlement peut bien fonctionner pour les Canadiens de façon ouverte et responsable.
The next question is a more local one. What's your reaction to Liberal candidate Marwan Tabera stating wrong information about Canada's role in Afghanistan and Iraq? Aren't you concerned about your candidates not knowing Canada's foreign policy, especially in the Middle East?
The local candidate in question has apologized for his statements that don't reflect the position of the Liberal Party of Canada.
Good morning, Mr. Trudeau. How are you?
Very well, thank
Jacqueline Mulchark with CPAC. You mentioned that Stephen Harper would have us believe that the economy would fail without his steering. But in truth, his team has been stateside, negotiating the final stages of the TPP, as we just discussed. That is a major feather, one would think, in the Conservative cap. How do you compete with that major economic achievement in the final 2 weeks of this campaign, coupled with, as you described, these attack ads that continue against you, not only by the Conservative camp, the NDP now as well? How do you sustain momentum against that two-pronged issue or attack?
Sorry, guys, I shouldn't be encouraging you. This is a press conference. I have tremendous faith in Canadians. I have been talking about issues that matter to them for 3 years now, responding to very real concerns they have about the fact that Stephen Harper has the worst record on growth of any Prime Minister since the Great Depression in the 1930s. He has the worst record of job creation of any Prime Minister since World War II. Mr. Harper has not delivered for middle-class Canadians the kind of growth that our economy needs in order to succeed. Now, I'm going to let my opponents continue to focus on me. I will stay focused on you.
And just to follow up, here in this riding, the unemployment rate is 5.1%, exceptionally low, many would say. Why would this riding want change if things are economically, one would say, pretty good?
Well, you don't have to spend too long in Waterloo to hear people talk about the need for better infrastructure investments, better, for example, two-way GO train all day to Toronto and back. The need for a federal government to step up and make the kind of investments now in our communities, in our young people, in our seniors that we need in order to create the kind of flourishing economy that Canadians know we can have. This is something that is fundamentally different between Mr. Harper and I. I know that confident, optimistic countries invest in their future, and he is committed to staying the course on a course that, quite frankly, hasn't worked for far too many people right across the country.
Hi there, Mr. Trudeau. I also want to ask you about TPP. The Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, has said that Canada had no choice but to be at the table for TPP, and that if Canada doesn't ratify the deal, that in 10 years this will be seen as a terrible error. I know you haven't seen the substance of it, but do you accept that Canada had to be a part of this deal?
I think anytime you have a deal that involves 3 of our 5 largest trading partners, it's something that really has to be very, very seriously considered. I think the trade is good and important, and it's a creator of good jobs. We know that export-intensive industries pay 50% higher wages than non-exporting industries in this country. Canada is a country with lots of resources and not too many people. We're always going to need to be engaged in international trade. It's what has helped Canada become the successful country that we are right now. We need to continue to do it, and it's important that we get it right, which is why I'm going to take a very careful look at the provisions and listen to Canadians from across the country and have them get an opportunity to express their concerns in committees and before Parliament as we seek ratification of this deal. But the fact is, the Liberal Party has always understood how important trade is, and we will continue to stand for trade and for engaging with the world.
Is that a yes?
That is, I look forward to seeing the details of the deal, but we go into it from a position of being resolutely and consistently, I might add, pro-trade.
I'd also like to ask you about your platform quickly, sir. The NDP, as you might imagine, have seen it come out today and raise a point that you've been raising against them, the question of cuts. I remember you saying Tom Mulcair is going to have to make cuts in order to support his plan. This spending review that you're calling for,
yes.
Billions of dollars of spending that is going to be eliminated, that sounds like cuts to me.
The fact is that we, like most Canadians, don't consider that finding a 1% efficiency in your budget is too much to ask for Canadians. I think from a year by year, whether you're with a household or a company looking to save a 1% of your expenditures is completely responsible, and indeed, we give lots of examples of that. Whether it's not spending nearly $1 billion over 10 years the way Mr. Harper has on partisan government ads paid for by the taxpayers, whether it's millions and millions of dollars spent on external consultants, or whether it's in tax breaks and advantages that go to the very wealthiest. One of the examples we give in that is actually something that the NDP has booked in their so-called costing document, which is exploring the impact of stock options on high net worth individuals using it as a tax dodge. We need to make sure that we are doing the most we can for middle-class Canadians and those seeking hard to join the middle class. That is what we are doing, and I can guarantee, as I have throughout this platform, that we will not be raising costs for middle-class Canadians or those working hard to join it. That is not in our plan. Mr. Mulcair made the wrong choice. He chose to balance Stephen Harper's budget at all costs, which means he cannot invest in our communities. He can't give more generous child benefits to the families who need it and lift 315,000 kids out of poverty. And he has chosen not to raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% and decrease them for the middle class. He's made the wrong choices. We have made the right choices for Canadians.
Monsieur Trudeau, un des éléments importants du dévoilement de votre plateforme aujourd'hui, c'est les sommes substantielles que vous mettez pour l'éducation postsecondaire, jusqu'à 750 millions de dollars de plus par année en 2019-2020. Je comprends que c'est important, l'éducation postsecondaire. Tout le monde est en faveur de ça, d'une certaine façon, mais est-ce que c'est pas la preuve aussi que la raison pour laquelle vous avez un déficit, c'est que vous avez de la misère à faire des choix, puis que vous voulez financer tout ce qui est important dans la société, comme l'éducation postsecondaire?
Au contraire, Emmanuel, si tu regardes dans notre plateforme, les sommes qu'on investit en éducation pour créer de l'aide directement aux étudiants de familles de la classe moyenne et de familles à bas revenus vient directement parce qu'on annule 2 crédits d'impôt non remboursables sur les livres et sur l'éducation en général qui se montraient non efficaces. Il n'y a pas beaucoup, c'est un équilibre tout simplement à ce niveau-là. Mais il y a d'autres enjeux où on investit massivement de nouvelles sommes en infrastructure, en aide pour les familles de la classe moyenne, parce que nous savons que ce qui est important, c'est d'aider justement les Canadiens à pouvoir créer de la croissance économique, à pouvoir bâtir un monde meilleur pour leurs enfants, parce que les infrastructures, les ponts, les routes, ce qui nous a amenés au travail aujourd'hui à travers le pays, ça n'a pas été bâti par nos impôts, ça a été bâti par les impôts de nos parents, de nos grands-parents. Il est temps qu'encore une fois, on investisse dans notre avenir.
Puis, en follow-up, je voudrais vous entendre sur l'impact pour les étudiants du Québec, parce que le Québec a déjà son prêt et bourse, et le fait que, oui, vous aussi, dans le fond, vous allez être obligé de couper et de rationaliser les dépenses pour équilibrer tout ça, comme vous le dites dans votre plan.
Oh, il n'y a personne qui pense, personne de raisonnable qui pense que de chercher à trouver 1% en efficacité, c'est des coupes. On a vu qu'on a un gouvernement extraordinairement inefficace dans leur choix en termes de publicité, en termes de consultants externes. On a un gouvernement qui continue de donner des avantages et des bénéfices aux mieux nantis plutôt qu'aux gens de la classe moyenne et à ceux qui travaillent fort pour se joindre à la classe moyenne. Alors, pour moi, c'est très facile de dire qu'il n'y aura pas de coupe pour trouver ces efficacités, juste des efficacités. Et comme je l'ai mentionné dans le discours, le Québec, qui a son système unique de prêts et bourses, sera compensé pleinement dans ce programme.
Again, with the TPP, you've said that you want to look at the details of the deal before you make a call on it, but there are some details that are out this morning, and I'm guessing you've had a look at them. Is there anything that you've seen so far that gives you pause, particularly with regard to the auto parts and dairy sectors?
Well, obviously, there have been a lot of questions about that, and I look forward to hearing from representatives of those industries. The fact is, on auto, we know that Canada is extraordinarily integrated in terms of supply chains with both the United States and Mexico, and the idea that the U.S. and Mexico would engage in a trade deal of this size, and somehow it might be in Canada's interest to not be part of that deal, I think is something that we're going to have to look into. But it seems to me that we need to continue with an integrated North American supply chain in terms of the auto industry. But of course, I look forward to hearing from concerned Canadians, from labor, from manufacturers about the impacts and the challenges of this particular deal, which is why I am committed to a full and open discussion in the House of Commons, a debate on this. And if I become Prime Minister and earn your trust on October 19th, we will ratify this properly in the House of Commons after a fulsome and responsible discussion. On dairy, it's a very similar thing. The Liberal Party is committed to protecting supply management. I look forward to hearing from producers and individuals affected by that, the changes that we've had a quick look at already this morning. There are some concessions. There are also some new advantages, and I look forward to hearing from people about how that unfolds.
Well, what are your thoughts on those changes that you just
My
referred
thoughts
to?
is that trade is extremely important for Canada. We have a country that was built on trade. We know that trade creates good jobs, trade lowers prices for consumers, trade creates economic growth. Canada is extraordinarily well positioned as a country with access directly to the U.S. market, with access across the Atlantic to Europe, with access across the Pacific to the rising economies of Asia. Trade is always going to be very important to Canada, and I'm looking forward to examining the elements of this deal and hearing from Canadians about the impacts of it.
Hello, Liz Montero from the Waterloo Region Record. This is a local question. NDP leader Tom Mulcair was in town yesterday, and his candidate in this riding is suggesting that the NDP is up by 11%. And they are using provincial results from 2014 to skew their numbers in newspaper ads. So I just wonder if you could comment on this tactic.
I trust Canadians. I trust Canadians to look at what the various leaders and political parties and strong local candidates are putting forward to have a positive impact in their lives. We are going to be investing in the Waterloo region, billions of dollars over the next 10 years. We're going to be creating more opportunities for low-income families to have more help with the cost of raising their kids. We're going to be raising taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we can lower them for the middle class. We have a plan based on facts, based on what Canadians have told us over the past years are their priorities. And we look forward to continuing to talk about our issues and not relying on misleading advertising to try and sneak through a win. We're going to be straight and upfront with Canadians about what we're going to do, about why we're going to do it, why we're going to run 3 deficits to balance the books by 2019, because Canada needs investment now, because Waterloo needs a federal partner ready to support and engage with our high-tech sector, create stronger clusters, create stronger bricks and mortar infrastructure to connect us to the metropolitan area in Toronto. This is what Waterloo needs. This is what regions across the country need from the federal government. Better partnership and more investment, and that's exactly what we're offering. Thank you. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you so much.